everyone, this is Herrick bringing you another episode of Action Figure This Out. Today, we're going to be taking a look at the Valaverse Action Force Sergeant Slaughter version 2. Now, I picked this guy up at my local comic book shop, Heroes Comics in Canada. They had this and the rest of the wave from the Valaverse, so thanks to Heroes for hooking this guy up. He was a little more expensive than other G.I. Joes, but he's definitely worth the price. So before we get started, let's just take a quick look at the packaging. On the front, you're going to see the figure through the window along with all the accessories he comes with. It says Action Force at the bottom, and under that it says Sergeant Slaughter. On the side, you're going to see a picture of Sergeant Slaughter, and it says Sergeant Slaughter over here. Okay, on the back, you're going to see a little bio for Sergeant Slaughter, along with the other figures in the rest of the wave. Okay, on the side, you're going to see it simply says Action Force, and for anybody who needs it, here's the barcode at the bottom of the box. So perfect. Let's action figure this out and take a look at this figure out of the packaging. Every soldier has stories about their drill sergeants from basic training, but few can compare to the claims of a 6'2", 240-pound giant known as Sergeant Slaughter. Now retired, Sergeant Slaughter began his military career as a Special Forces team sergeant, leading classified operations in the early 80s. At some point in his career, Slaughter left the teams to become a drill sergeant at Fort Benning, where he pummeled young recruits into the ground day and night. It is what earned him the nickname Sergeant Slaughter. It didn't matter to him who the recruits were or where they came from. He treated them all alike and turned them into real soldiers. After Benning, Sergeant Slaughter retired and was recalled to serve as a special tactics instructor in a special missions unit within the U.S. military, where he served until 1994, after which he formally retired from active military service. When the nation was collapsed, Sergeant Slaughter was pegged to again serve as an advisor to the Special Missions Unit called Action Force, where he passed his experience and knowledge from his days in the teams. Slaughter may well be known, but his true identity is not. But that won't stop his enemies from hunting him down. For Sergeant Slaughter, the real fight has just begun. So before we get started, let's just take a quick look at the height of this figure. So in inches, Sergeant Slaughter stands at around 6 3/4 inches. So that roughly equates to something of around 17 centimeters tall. So right away, I'm just going to say that this figure is great. Compared to the G.I. Joe version, Sergeant Slaughter, this figure stands on its own. It's a more aged version of Sergeant Slaughter, but it's still really great to have. He comes with quite a few accessories: a vest, a sleeveless vest that you can put on him. It's pretty thick. He comes with a backpack, which you can take the back off, as you can see, to store things in. So that's a nice thing to have. Hey, I wish G.I. Joes came with backpacks like this. He comes with a grenade launcher. Okay, and this, you can actually rotate the chamber. So that's a real nice touch. Real nice touch to have. Okay, he comes with a revolver. And this, you can't rotate the cylinder, but that's just fine. This thing's a beast. He comes with some sunglasses and a hat, which I have on him right now. He comes with 4 pairs of hands and an extra finger pointing hand. He has grabby hands, trigger finger hands. These would be support hands, so for when you're holding your gun, instead of fitting it in his hand, in his trigger finger hands, you can actually have a dedicated hand. So that's really nice to have. Comes with 2 fists, and he comes with a drill sergeant hat, which is what we usually see Sergeant Slaughter wearing. So I have him wearing this hat over here, simply because it sits on his head better. With this hat over here, it doesn't really sit on, it doesn't grip, it just slightly sits on his head, so if you have him moving around, it'll fall off. So that's why I like wearing this one. And his web gear is actually removable. So if you really want it, you can, I'm just going to take these off. You can go ahead and take this off Sergeant Slaughter, and you could have him in just in his tank top. So as you can see, you can take it off and you can have Sergeant Slaughter in his classic look. So that's nice. As you can see, he has a double ball peg in his diaphragm, which we're going to take a look at when we take a look at his articulation. But this is really nice to have. I like it a lot. This articulation is elite. So I'm going to put his web gear back on. And then clip this back in. And then put his glasses back on. And then put his hat back on him. There we go. And he comes with an Action Force stand that has Action Force printed in it. And there's a little groove at the back where you can cut out his bio card and then put it here as you display him. And as you can see, his pegs are offset. So that's nice. That's a really nice addition to have. So, as I said, his hat is made of a harder material than the G.I. Joe hat, which makes it a little harder to sit on his head. Now his glasses, on the other hand, are made from a softer material, and they don't really sit on his head too well, so they fall off, but when you have his hat on, it kind of helps stick his sunglasses on his head a little bit better. Now, overall, this is a really great figure. Definitely worth the extra price tag. Instead of an ab crunch, like I showed you before, this figure has a ball peg in his diaphragm and the waist. So, like I showed you, you can remove the web gear and see the abdomen for what it is and the articulation potential that you want. The figure is slightly shorter than the G.I. Joe Sergeant Slaughter Classified series, but it's supposed to be a more older version of Sergeant Slaughter, so I can see why they went with that. I can see why they went with a little shorter version. The G.I. Joe Sergeant Slaughter is supposed to be a younger version of him in his prime. Compared to the G.I. Joe Sergeant Slaughter, this figure is a really decent upgrade. The weapons are all interchangeable, so if you want your G.I. Joe Sergeant Slaughter to be holding a hand cannon, then you can put it in his hands. The only issue that I found with this figure is that the hands are really hard to get off. They seem to be stuck in really good, and it's really difficult to take off without using boiling water or heat. So I'm just going to soak these hands in hot water to see if I can get them off. Alright, so now that we've taken a closer look at this figure, let's take a look at his articulation. Alright, so I'm just going to take his sunglasses and hat off for now. So, in his neck and head, he has a disc and a ball joint. So, that's going to give you the ability to look all the way up like this much. He can look all the way down and have his chin touch his chest. He can look side to side, no problem. And he has a little bit of tilt, so that's nice. He has a butterfly joint that goes in and out really far, so that's pretty decent. He has a hinge in his shoulder, okay, which gives you 90 degrees. He can go forward, he can go back, all around, no problem. He has an upper bicep cut, which gives you the ability to rotate 360. He has a double jointed pinless elbow, which gives you well over 90 degrees. And in his wrist, he has a hinge, which it's a vertical hinge, so that way you can go up and down like this much, and you can rotate 360 degrees. Like I said before, he has a ball peg in his diaphragm, which gives you the ability to rotate around this much. Okay, he can lean forward this much, he can lean back this much, he can lean side to side this much, and he can rotate full 360. Alright. In his waist, he also has a ball peg, which gives you the ability to look forward this much, bend back this far, bend side to side this much, and rotate around. As well, he can rotate 360 degrees. So that's pretty decent. in his hips. He doesn't have a drop down hips, but they're already dropped down. So with utilizing both joints, he can do the full splits. So that's amazing. He can kick forward this much. Alright, he can kick back this much. And he has an upper thigh cut, which gives you full 360 degree rotation. He has a double jointed pinless knee, which gives you the ability to almost kick his own back. Alright, he has an upper boot cut, which goes 360. And he has a hinge in his ankle, which gives you the ability to kick back this far. You can kick up this much. And he has a forward facing peg for a rocker. But that's really tight. So, and as you can see, he has a holster for his revolver. And he has, I think this might be like a med kit or something. Some sort of package on his left thigh. So that's pretty decent. So I'm just gonna go give him all his accessories, kit him up basically. And then we can see how he compares with other figures. Put the revolver in his hand. And then give him the grenade launcher in his other hand. And then put his backpack on his back. Now we have a loaded Sergeant Slaughter. There we go. Alright. Alright, so first we're going to see how the Valaverse Sergeant Slaughter compares with the G.I. Joe Classified Sergeant Slaughter and the G.I. Joe Classified Storm Shadow. And as you can see, the G.I. Joe Classified Sergeant Slaughter is slightly bigger than the Valaverse one and slightly larger. But like I said before, the Valaverse one is supposed to be a little older, a more aged Sergeant Slaughter. So it's good to have these Sergeant Slaughters together. Okay, next we have the Valaverse Sergeant Slaughter standing next to Snake Eyes, the Alpha Commando version, and Snake Eyes, the 02 version. Okay, so next we have him standing next to a few Star Wars Black Series figures. We have him standing next to the Return of the Jedi Retro Boba Fett and the Maldo Crace Mandalorian 2-pack. Alright, so next we have him standing next to the Arkham Knight by McFarlane and the Grim Knight. Alright, so next we have him standing next to the McFarlane Black Adam movie wave of figures, Black Adam, and Shazam from Shazam Fury of the Gods. And now we have him standing next to the Marvel Legends Retro War Machine and the Retro Iron Man. Alright, and here we have him standing next to the New Eternia He-Man and the 40th Anniversary He-Man. Alright, so I think that's going to be about it for today. Thanks for joining me on another episode of Action Figure the Set, where we took a look at the Valaverse Sergeant Slaughter. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe if you'd like to see more reviews of your favorite action figures as well. Don't hesitate to leave a comment. We'd love to hear from you. Who's your favorite person in the Valaverse line of figures? Again, this is Herrick with Action Figure This Out, signing off.
Artlist.io Music licensing reimagined.